Tonight on CFTK-TV News, the Prince Rupert Police recently celebrated their new detachment's opening. Tensions are rising in Haidaguay following a community member's death, and we'll have more information on the Lapu tragedy.
Northwest BC's only television news team. We are CFTK-TV News.
Good evening, I'm Cale Maslin, and here's what's making the news in the Northwest and beyond for today. In the closing days of April, the city of Prince Rupert, their local RCMP, and their partners had a big ceremony to celebrate the official opening of the brand new police detachment. The previous detachment had been built back in 1978 and was determined to be inadequate for modern police standards. The new station's opening was celebrated with a ribbon-cutting ceremony, a formal flag raising, the cutting of cake, speeches, and an on-site barbecue. Prince Rupert initially got approval to spend about $25 million on the construction of the new building, but the total budget of the project ended up totaling in at about $23.5 million. The local RCMP members are also reportedly excited to now be working in a location that is better suited to their needs and standards. Beginning next Monday, the city of Prince Rupert is going to be closing down Bacon Street in both directions. The reason for the closure is so that the city can start its work on a big project that will see them replace the water main in that particular area. Pedestrian access to that area is expected to be maintained throughout the course of the project, whose current timeline projects for it to take about 8 weeks to fully complete. Tensions have come to a head on Haidaguay following the death of a community member. The killing of Luke Pearson has led to protests, property damage, and questions about the intersection of Indigenous and Canadian law. CTV's Adam McMillan explains.
A car is crushed.
There we go.
Rocks are thrown.
There we go.
And homes are demolished on the remote BC archipelago of Haidaguay. Facebook posts indicate these are the homes of people who have been shunned by the community. This follows the death of Luke Pearson, who was killed last week in Skidegate when police allege he was struck by a vehicle. 32-year-old Tyson Young has been charged with second-degree murder.
I'm not sure about destroying the homes, but the councils do have the ability to banish people.
That's newly elected MP and former Haisla Nation chief Ellis Ross. Community members are accusing Young's associates of having ties to the drug trade. According to videos shared online, they left Haidaguay surrounded by protesters.
A lot of First Nations wanted the Haidaguay people to know, you're not alone. You know, we're standing with you.
Following their departure, the RCMP say Young's family was met by more protesters.
They were also being physically prevented from getting sleep or eating.
Mounties say that borders on criminal harassment, so they gave the family an escort.
Get out of town! Keep driving!
There's a process underway for the accused, and that process needs to continue without interference.
The shunning and property damage are raising questions around how Canadian and Indigenous law intersect or clash.
If you ask people who work as part of the Canadian justice system, they're going to say what the Haidaguay are doing is illegal. And what the Haidaguay members of the Haidaguay community are saying is essentially, we don't care. We're asserting our ancestral laws, the laws that have governed our community since time immemorial, and looking out for our community safety according to our laws.
Coming up next is a profile of one of the Lapu attack survivors. Welcome back. We now shift to the heartbreaking story of one of the survivors of the Lapu attack. A Vancouver man remains in the hospital recovering from his own injuries, but the emotional scars will remain longer. In the frantic seconds after he heard a screeching SUV, he tried to pull his mother to safety, but she didn't survive. CTV's Shannon Patterson has the story.
Helgi Bjarnason brought his mom Vicky to the Lapu Festival while she was visiting Vancouver for a taste of their Filipino heritage. They had only been there for a few minutes.
I haven't seen her since the accident. I was holding her hand as I heard the car screeching behind. I looked behind, I saw it. I tried to pull her I didn't get to say goodbye or like look out or watch, like move, nothing, no words. I just really tried to hold her.
After Helgi was knocked to the pavement, he looked for her.
I was on the floor and I was trying to look far, and I haven't seen my mom.
With his leg shattered and bodies all around him, a stranger stayed with Helgi while he waited for paramedics.
She held my hand the entire time and was helping me breathe through the pain.
The 27-year-old is now recovering in hospital. His partner Garrett hasn't left his side.
I don't know if I'll be this strong if it wasn't for him, or I didn't have someone like sleeping beside me every night.
There have been flashes of anger at the man with mental health issues now accused of murdering his mom.
At some point I was mad, but I remember like how my mom would think about this, and she doesn't have an angry bone in her body.
He's been blown away by the generosity of people who've donated to a GoFundMe to help cover the cost of his recovery and bringing Vicky's body back to the Philippines for a memorial.
And I just know my mom's like, I told you so, I told you so. People are good and they will help.
Helgi is an occupational therapist and knows his physical recovery will be long and difficult, but his body will heal faster than his heart.
The nurses here are saying like, oh, you're so bubbly. Like, most of the time I'm not in pain. You're just so positive, and I think that's my mom. That's her. Those are the things I learned from her. Because it's free to be kind. That's how I want her to be remembered.
Shannon Patterson, CTV News, Vancouver.
Meanwhile, there's new information about the accused and the victims of the Lapu tragedy. CTV's Kevin Chirac has more from the scene.
For the first time since the tragedy took place 6 days ago, 43rd Avenue here at St. George has reopened to vehicle traffic. In fact, most roads in the area have since reopened. And we've learned there are positive signs of hope for surviving victims of the tragedy. Police providing an update on surviving victims. 13 remain in hospital. That's down 3 from Wednesday's announcement. Also, 4 people now listed in critical condition. 1 person has been downgraded to serious condition.
That means that one person's medical status has improved slightly. That obviously gives us hope for those victims, those surviving victims who are still in hospital.
There were no additional deaths to report. Police also giving new information on suspect Kai G. Adam Lowe.
The person who was arrested and is in custody did have a valid British Columbia driver's license at the time of the attack.
More than 25,000 people are expected for this Sunday's BMO Marathon. Police deploying 200 officers and many more staff and volunteers will be on site.
The responsibilities will be to secure heavy vehicle barriers, light vehicle barriers, as well as various traffic closures for the entire marathon routes between the half marathon and the full marathon route.
Police say they've spoken with more than 200 witnesses from Saturday night and are urging more people with information to come forward. Now, this small stretch of road here at 43rd Avenue in St. George remains closed. That's because that's where the Community Support Center trailer is located. Police say a lot of people have been coming and going through the past 6 days. It'll remain open throughout the weekend from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Kevin Chirac, CTV News, Vancouver.
In response to the Lapu tragedy, Premier David Eby announced a review and modernization of the Mental Health Act, a move that many advocates welcomed, but they're also frustrated it didn't come sooner. CTV's Rob Buffum has that story.
Review and changes to the Mental Health Act ordered Wednesday by the Premier are being met with relief and with frustration they didn't happen sooner.
It's taken some time for the government to react. The incredible nightmare of the tragedy in Vancouver has certainly set the public's mind aflame.
The horror of the Lapu Festival tragedy forcing the review and modernization of the Act, something that has been recommended for years, including formally by an all-party government committee 3 years ago. The Greens' Adam Olsen was part of that.
This government's lack of action has actually made vulnerable people more vulnerable now, and more stigmatization has increased as a result of a lack of action.
Premier Eby says the delay was due to a pending court challenge against the constitutionality of involuntary care provisions in the Act, a court case with origins nearly a decade ago.
Feels like a push to me, actually. It feels like a way to distract us from what the actual issue is.
The health minister says a timeline for when the review will begin or its scope isn't yet known.
Well, I think really what the most important thing is now is that we are going to undertake this review.
The city of Nanaimo has battled homelessness, addiction, and mental health challenges. Its mayor has pushed repeatedly for the expansion of involuntary care and for more funding on mental health. He's pushing for momentum of this moment, more supportive housing funding, and involuntary treatment beds in his town.
We're prepared to take the political opposition, the neighborhood opposition that may well flow from that.
In turn, the Premier asked the Prime Minister in a letter for more funding for mental health supports.
Having a partner at the federal level to assist us in opening the beds that we are aggressively moving to open.
As all levels of government react to an unthinkable tragedy that's underscored issues many had warned about for years.
And now we take a look at both your nightly and weekly weather forecast. On the north coast, the forecast for tonight is projecting to see clouds and a chance of showers, while the low sits at 6 degrees, and for the weekly forecast, it's expected that lots of clouds will be present along with some possible rain, and the high should shift from 12 to 9 degrees. In the Terrace Kitimat area, the night is likely to get showers with a low down at 4 degrees, and as for the rest of the week, mostly more rain is likely to come with at least one mixed sun and cloud day, as the high bounces between 9 and 13 degrees. And in the Bulkley Valley and Lakes District, tonight's forecast should see partly cloudy conditions with a chance of showers and a low of 0, with their own weekly forecast calling for some clouds mixed in with the sun to start, before transitioning to all raining clouds, while their high moves from 12 to 14 degrees. Checking out the highways now, visit Drive BC for the latest and up-to-date conditions, and as always, drive safe out there. Highway 16 has bridge maintenance, utility work, industrial traffic, road sweeping, and electrical maintenance. Highway 37 has frost heaves. Highway 37A is dealing with falling rocks between west of Misiaden and east of Stewart. And the Telegraph Creek Road has muddy sections, and a rest area is closed west of Dease Lake. And this is what the roads were looking like this afternoon around the region from the view of the province's highway cabs. Still to come is word from the first responders who attended the scene of the Lapu attack. Welcome back. Among the first witnesses to the Lapu devastation were first responders, but police, firefighters, and paramedics have said all along that they had a job to do and don't want the tragedy to be about them. Even so, experts in their fields are urging them not to repress their own grief and get help if they need. Sigid Alexander has those details.
Move in with full fight mode. Be stoic, be courageous. That's often the job of a first responder, a profession that may see more suffering during one single call than most people will see in their lifetime.
I was just cringing at how much of an impact this is going to have on them. The ripple effect was massive.
Our brains are designed to protect us, so it's likely many who were first on scene had to bury what they saw in order to cope and do their jobs. Everyone is affected differently, of course, but it's not just big events that can have an impact.
And what happens is that it just builds up. It's like holding a beach ball underwater. And eventually that thing's going to pop up. And the bigger it gets, the harder it's held underwater. And we need to let some air out of that. And that's why I think ongoing care, checking up from the neck up, etc., is going to be really vital for this.
And when it comes to them reaching out for help, they feel guilty that they should be doing this for a number of reasons. One of them is they are the one who are helping people. They are not the one who should be reaching out for help.
We all mourn those who were killed or hurt. We think of their friends and family. But victims can also be anyone who witnessed the event, even if they weren't hurt physically.
Even just watching it on the news or hearing it from a friend, you know, you can visualize this and you can have the same kind of traumatic response as actually being there.
Sometimes doctors need doctors, lawyers need lawyers, and the people whose job it is to help and treat first responders want them to know they've got their backs.
They are not alone, and that we are there for them.
I'd say if you know a first responder in your life, reach out to them, check in on them. These things will bring all kinds of stuff to the service.
St. John Alexander, CTV News, Vancouver.
Emotional testimony came at the coroner's inquest into the overdose death of UVic student Sydney McIntyre Starko. Another security guard who attended the scene defended his actions, saying they did the best they could, given a student denied that they took drugs. CTV's Ben Nesbitt has more.
In the middle of his testimony, Benjamin Watson asked to take a break. The UVic campus security officer became visibly emotional after he saw the family of Sydney McIntyre Starko in the gallery. Watson also asked to say a few words after he finished giving his evidence. There's all this narrative out there that we were standing around doing nothing. We really weren't. I, myself, and Murphy was trying to assess the situation the best we can. Sorry we didn't show up better, but we actually did the best we could, said Watson. He echoed his partner's evidence that this was a misdiagnosis issue based off of the information they had received, rather than a lack of proper training. McIntyre Starko and another student who can't be identified both overdosed on fentanyl-laced cocaine. A third student who also took the drugs initially denied they had taken anything to the security officers, who later administered naloxone once she admitted it. An independent report found that Watson and his partner should have detected signs of an overdose sooner. Late Thursday afternoon, the dispatcher who took the 911 call began what's expected to be a lengthy testimony. She'll be back on the stand Friday morning. Ben Nesbitt, CTV News, Burnaby.
A former Vancouver Police Board member is questioning how a pricey initiative targeting criminal activity on the downtown east side was approved. She said that a lack of a paper trail shows that the police board isn't living up to its role. CTV's Isabella Zavarisi reports.
Faye Whiteman was on the Vancouver Police Board for about 3 years. She resigned last January, stating political interference from the mayor's office. Whiteman isn't sold that things have changed, pointing to an initiative that will cost taxpayers millions.
Well, it's certainly not following due process, and it's certainly not following good governance.
In February, after the city's budget was finalized, Mayor Ken Sim announced Task Force Barrage. The $5 million operation is spearheaded by the Vancouver Police Department. Whiteman says the request should have come to the police board first.
When you're talking about a $5 million change to a budget, that's not an operational decision. That's a strategic decision, it's a financial decision, and it's the board's decision to make.
Since February, CTV News has repeatedly asked the police board to point us to any documents showing the board approved the funding prior to the mayor's announcement. The board has been unable to do so.
All I know is that from the police department, they're giving us $5 million. How they do it, they have to work out their own, machinations about that. That's not us doing that.
Green City Councillor Pete Fry says the funds were never approved at a council meeting.
$5 million was put out there by the chief. It wasn't indicated at that time that it was necessarily overtime budget. It was just $5 million to do this thing that we were just learning about. So, again, there wasn't a lot of transparency leading up to that.
The mayor's office says it expects a formal funding request, along with overtime or protest-related operational costs, to come before council for review and debate. Adding public safety is non-negotiable. For Whiteman, she believes the board needs to keep in mind who it's accountable to: the public.
I believe that there is a real benefit in having a autonomous, non-political board overseeing the VPD. But I think they need to make sure that they know what their job is and to do it.
Isabella Zavarisi, CTV News, Vancouver.
And now we turn our attention to how the stock markets are looking as of today compared to yesterday. The Canadian dollar is up 18/10 of a cent. The price of gold is up $21.10. Oil is down 95 cents. Natural gas is up 15 cents. Aluminum is up $16.50. In Toronto, the TSX is up 235.96 points. The Venture Index is up 10.26. In New York, the Dow Jones is up 564.47, and NASDAQ is up 266.99. Still ahead, a dad set a record that you may not have ever thought of before. Welcome back. A Toronto dad is racing into the record books. He's now a Guinness World Record holder for the fastest 1 kilometer run while pushing a baby stroller, and his young son went along for the ride. CTV's Scott Lightfoot has more on his speedy sprint.
He's an accomplished runner and obstacle course racer, but last year, while outrunning with his son in a stroller, Toronto's Brendan Neely had an idea.
It just kind of dawned on me one day. I was out there running, pushing the boys, and I just thought, hey, maybe there's some sort of record.
3, 2, 1, go.
This morning at Downsview Park, with family and friends cheering him on, and sponsored by the stroller company Baby Jogger, Neely went for a world record. Fastest time running 1 kilometer while pushing a baby stroller.
Push a living individual, his son, who's going to be safely strapped into the stroller. The stroller cannot be modified in any way, shape, or form. He has to be in constant contact with the stroller for the full 1 kilometer, and he is not allowed to use the pram to support his body weight. He's got to be pushing that thing.
The firefighter and father of 2 spent months training for this record attempt.
My youngest, who's going to be in the stroller, he has no idea what's going on. But my oldest son, he's been my biggest training partner throughout this whole build up to this, and he's kind of bummed out that he's not going to be in the hot seat for it.
The previous Guinness World Record was held by a man from the UK who ran 1K while pushing a stroller in 3 minutes and 19 seconds. Neely and his son Jack did it in 2 minutes and 51 seconds, setting a new record.
That was unreal. That went smoother than I had ever thought. Conditions turned out to be perfect. The wind stayed down, so and Jack was content the whole way, kicking his legs, just having a great time. So yeah, it was the ideal effort.
Next week, Neely heads to Saudi Arabia for a race, but says he's now thinking of going for a tandem record, pushing both of his boys at the same time.
It's really so much more than the record. Like, just the amount of hours I put in with these guys is truly what means the most to me. So yeah, it's been quite the wild ride.
Scott Lightfoot, CTV News.
That is all of our news for now. From all of us here at CFTK-TV News, I'm Cale Maslin, and thank you for watching. We will see you on the upcoming edition on Weekend Review.